perfection for a second. Imagine, for example, a perfect game in baseball. That's when a pitcher completes at least 9 innings without allowing any batter from the opposing team to reach base. It happens. It's very rare. Imagine a perfect painting without an errant stroke that needs to be painted over. Imagine a perfect score on a medical board exam. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that number is 300 at a medical board. Imagine a complicated piano piece without one missed or wrong note. No pressure, Russell. Imagine washing a window without leaving one streak. Imagine being the perfect husband or wife or the perfect child who does no wrong 100% of the time. Perfection. Yeah, it's hard to reach, but it's something we all try to achieve every so often. But the thing is, even if we truly master something, we will never get to the point where we no longer mess up or no longer make mistakes or no longer fall short. Perfection in reality is an unattainable state because we're all inherently limited by our human nature. That's just a fact. And we're constantly growing. We're constantly learning and adapting. And in that process, mistakes and imperfections naturally arise. But here's the best part. It's okay to be imperfect. Understanding that perfection isn't possible frees us to live more genuinely. Accepting our imperfections opens the doors to self-compassion and growth, allowing us to focus not on impossible standards, but on being better each day. Well, today we celebrate the solemnity of All Saints. Oftentimes, when we think of saints, we think of people who were perfect Christians. We imagine that they were always kind and always loving and generous and compassionate and always patient and merciful, never angry. Well, if that's how we see them, we can always just keep them at arm's length. Always consider them to be anomalies. People who live lives none of us can come close to. But if we look closely at the lives of individual saints, you'll quickly realize that they were far from perfect. They certainly didn't all have the same gifts or the same virtues. Some were bizarre. Some were bizarre figures who led complex lives. Yes, they got it right, but sometimes they got it wrong. And yes, they exhibited God-centered behavior, but sometimes they exhibited faults and failings that each of us have. But what they each were able to do in their own unique ways was to get close to the target. And the target, of course, is Jesus, the one that we are all called to imitate. Now, we have to understand, though, that imitating Jesus does not mean trying to reach his level of perfection, because that ain't gonna happen, okay? Jesus is God, okay? He's perfect, we're not. Imitating the ways of Jesus is about orienting ourselves toward his example and striving to embody his spirit of love, his spirit of mercy and humility. And what does that mean? Well, it means forgiving when it's hard. It means choosing humility over pride and arrogance. It means seeking to love even those who are so difficult to love. And it means making selfless choices that prioritize the needs of others over our own, even when it's challenging. And let me point out that Jesus did not just live in flawless morality. He reached out to those who struggled and showed us that that the love of God The love of God does not hinge on our perfection. So please don't get discouraged if you're unable to relate to Jesus to the degree that we would like. As I said, he's perfect and we're not. And this is partly why we have today's solemnity, to be able to relate to the many, many men and women who started with the same struggles and imperfections we face. To see these holy figures not as distant, flawless beings, but as as people with compassion, and they inspire us. Saints show us that by God's grace and through perseverance, we too can be transformed. I mean, look at St. Augustine of Hippo, right? He led a wayward life before his conversion. St. Paul of Tarsus, oh my goodness, who persecuted the church. He was the church's #1 enemy. He persecuted the church before becoming one of the church's greatest apostles. They show us that the path to sainthood is open to everyone, regardless of our past and present struggles. In fact, one particular saint who called attention to this inclusivity, this idea that holiness is accessible to everyone in every state of life, was a 17th century saint named St. Francis de Sales. St. Francis de Sales was fondly referred to, by the way, as the gentleman saint for his incredible gift of gentleness, even toward those who opposed him. He also did not believe that holiness was only for those in monasteries or secluded lives of prayer. Instead, he emphasized that God invites everyone, parents, workers, children, friends, teachers, leaders, etc., to live a virtuous life in the ordinariness of our daily duties. St. Francis de Sales showed us that God's love and truth need no force to be shared. Rather, they should be offered with compassion and patience. And this was how he brought many people back to the faith in a time of great division. And so today, as we celebrate All Saints' Day, may the stories of the saints give us hope that even in our weakness, we can draw nearer to God and cultivate a life of virtue. May this blessed day encourage us to see our own potential for spiritual growth and recognize that we are invited to be part of the communion of saints in heaven. And as Saint Therese of Lisieux once said, holiness consists simply in doing God's will and being just what God wants us to be.
Thank you for participating in this production of our virtual Mass. Your presence means so much. Every day, so many parishioners connect to OLPH through the digital ministry. The digital ministry is one of almost 80 ministries supported by the parish. That's why your support of the parish is crucial, so we can continue to have the resources to fund all of our ministries that touch the lives of many. Thank you for watching, continue to watch, and thanks again for your support.